Hi, everybody. Here we are. It is 2026.
Yes.
Look who's here.
I'm in.
We're so excited. It's like a whole new everything.
Yes.
So everybody needs to meet Marina.
Hello, everybody.
That's
I
Marina.
am like a stranger, not stranger from the past.
Not at all a stranger. So I will tell you a little bit about Marina, my new co-host. Marina is the founder of Book Biz Hub. She has been involved with helping authors be their best selves since 2016, when she's founded the Brooklyn Writers Press. She published me. She published this book and Baby. That's my book. She published it. It's a great press. And it is a hybrid publisher press. So she knows everything there is to know about indie publishing and hybrid publishing. She has a new podcast that's about to come out besides this one. And she's just basically an entirely amazing human being. She's also written a memoir called Running into the Night, which will kill you. So, be aware, like have a lot of water to drink. And yeah, we're just super excited to have her. And we're very excited today because it is the January Poetry Salon. And every single January, we present all poets all the time. And it's pretty cool. So let's see who we have today. Marina, would you like to? Let's bring some people on.
Let's bring everybody on. We have some fabulous poets today. So Jessica Rowe, Teresa Burns, Teresa Dzieglewicz.
Yeah, you got it.
And Diana Whitney. Yes.
So our four amazing, where's Diana? There she is. So then, hi everybody. So wave at the audience. So the first thing, obviously, we have to thank our sponsors for creating the situation in which we can present these beautiful poets. And so our sponsors this month are Poets and Writers and the DeGroat Foundation and the Poetry Foundation. And we have public funding from the New York State Council on the Arts. And our main sponsor, yay, everybody, yay, we love it. And then our main sponsor for this month is the Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing. And they do a residency that is apparently really good. I don't know if any of you have done the residency there, but a lot of the parent writers that we take care of at Pen Parentis have won that or have gone to that residency program. And Martha's Vineyard wants us all to know that they give out $300,000 worth of fellowships so far. And they have fellowships for LGBTQ, for BIPOC, for all kinds of things. And they have a parent fellowship. So if you're watching, get your butt on the gear and apply. You have until January 19th to apply. It is a completely fully funded residency, 100%. And so you go. They give you food. Like do it for the food. Do it for the food and the creative food. Anyway, so always we start with readings. So I would love for you all to meet each one of these writers, and we will go one at a time and see how they write. And then we'll stay at the end and we'll have a large conversation about practice and children and figuring all this stuff out and creative selves. So Marina, if you could introduce our first reader, that would be super.
Oh, it would be my pleasure. Jessica Rowe is an emerging poet and creative nonfiction writer who has spent over 20 years teaching in her rural Nevada and her native Idaho. Rural Nevada and her native Idaho. I apologize. A former Fulbright scholar to Romania, she is currently on sabbatical to complete a hybrid collection exploring grief, motherhood, and caregiving through terminal illness, rooted in memories of her mother who died young of ovarian cancer. Jessica's work has appeared in Focus and Book 11. Did I get that right? And she's received grants and a residency at Sundress Academy for the Arts. As a writer, artist, and mother of 4. She brings empathy and insight to both her family life and her political life. Welcome, Jessica. Can't wait to listen to you tonight.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to start with an excerpt from a longer piece in my collection. It's an excerpt from a poem called Raccoon Mother.
Ooh.
Suddenly, it is all too much. Too much, too sudden, too dark, too still. You need to be walking. You eye the door, but you won't go to it. You know that if you reach the knob, you will turn it. And that if you turn the knob, you will hear the click of iron. If this does not wake the girls, the listeners, the cracking of the swollen door will, or the slap of the screen door, or the slice of the cold night air, or the keys jingling in your palm. And you know once through you will be running. You will not be able to stop running. But even running, you will not be able to reach the mountains or the road or the edge of the lawn. Instead, you pace. Instead, you stand. Close your eyes to the moon on the far field. Look for a reason. Count your breaths. Recalibrate. Running a rough hand over the velvet of the back of your scalp, dry finger pads catching at the hitch where skull meets spine. You take stock. Opening your eyes finally, you watch the floor, and it waves at you, rippling a bit at the corners, tripping you, tilting you, sucking at the gripper socks, draggle plucking you in a breath-stop slipstick leaning. You shuck the socks and come all unstuck at the chill. Air and gravity switch purpose in the dark. Faced with a choice, you choose bone over breath and give up cheekbones to protect lung and soft middle. The floor accepts. A flash of gunpowder and sugar, iron, and somehow in the midst of the elbow of winter, the taste of green grass. It's like you are leaking time. But by morning, you know it will be blood again. Same thing, you decide suddenly. And just as suddenly, you know where sleep has been hiding and find it. By morning, when we ask the raccoon about her face, she doesn't even pause. What do you mean, this? Oh, this was here already. Have some breakfast. A bold bluff and a bald one, but she chatters, she chuckles, she flimflams, she flirts, pulling things out of a cupboard like she's about to spin gold from straw, shuffling flour across the counter, sliding yogurt down the bar towards us until we stop staring and start stirring, warming ourselves at the embers of her story. There she sits, leaning on one elbow, glimmering a glance up at us, radiant and sure, anchoring the moment in time and daring us to call her play. But look at her. She is stunning, shining in the float of dust motes, sun-sparkled and shimmering in the steam from the pancakes, which she deals like cards across the counter, buying minutes from the morning light with fistfuls of crumpled breaths, furtively palming the harder change, like no one else will notice.
Wow. I forget every year you guys do this to me, you poets. Every year I'm like, oh, the poets are great. I love the poets. And then the first poet reads and I'm like, oh, I forgot. Like it's so, the language, it's so delicious. I love it. Oh my gosh.
Wonderful.
Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Happiness, happiness, happiness. I see already out there from Forest Hills, Amy Gretsch is saying hi to everybody and loved this poem. So that's awesome. Sorry, that was so great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through everybody's little snippets and then we're going to all talk. So
Excellent.
Get ready for the next one, you people out there that are watching.
Oh,
Jessica.
All right. Ready? Theresa Burns. Theresa Burns is the author of the poetry collection Design and the chapbook To Train Town. Her poetry, reviews, and nonfiction have appeared in the New York Times, Prairie Schooner, New Ohio Review, and others. For nearly 20 years, she worked as a nonfiction book editor in New York and Boston, specializing in psychology, parenting, and cultural and social history. Winner of the 2023 New Jersey Poets Prize and a three-time Pushcart nominee, Teresa is the founder of Watershed Literary Events and teaches writing in and around New York. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for the opportunity to read at Pen Parentis. I've known the organization for a long time and just honored to be here. So I'm just going to read two poems from very different periods over my writing life in the last 20 years. The first one is from my chapbook, To Train Town. And it was when my kids were quite small and just learning to acquire the ability to write themselves. So this is called Learning to Write. In spite of the house, in spite of the furnace of his attention, I could not warm up. So bottled up, bottlenecked, you could have stuck a candle in my throat. And he, same brown shoes, same size. In the next room, in shrinking pajamas, in wet bathing suits, our children frictioned and lit. All day it went like this. By the time I wiped the counter after breakfast, they'd shape-shifted again. Before I started the engine, they were deep in the caves of their language making, in Lascaux, in Canyon du Chet. They were the Anasazi bearing pencils like shards, dye of vegetable, crushed berry, spit. I could hardly bear to witness it. Chicken scratches, stick figures trembled from dubious grips, and the whole place littered with bits of paper as they built their fires.
Mm.
This second poem I'm going to read is not, well, it was published. It's not yet in a book. It will probably show up in the next book that I publish. It's called Mowing the Lawn for the First Time After My Son Leaves for College. This is the one who just corrected my screen. Mowing the lawn for the first time after my son leaves for college. I never realized the heft of it till I pushed it loud and hot over plugs of crabgrass, squirrel dug rivets and tunnels, berms with hacked off standpipes and sizable turds left by some unknown animal. I thought it was a vacuum for the lawn, expected the grass to silk right down in rows as I rolled over the wall to wall of our yard, a single hand steering. Instead, I heaved the gas sputtering hulk in ragged diagonals, the way I watched you do since you were 12. Fumes making me a little sick, my hands so slick with sweat, I thought I'd have to let go what Dad calls the dead man's handle, that bar you release if you discover too late you've run over your feet, danger never far from your own hands. Yesterday, a student opened fire at your school, and now 3 young men will never mow the grass again. I push hard against the fact of this, sticks and acorn bits flying up. I let the roar drown out imagined outcomes, phone calls, the music we choose to conjure, without a doubt, you. It's when I'm done the hardest work begins, to sit down beside this suddenly ravenous quiet and wait for rain.
Mm.
Wow.
Yay.
Yeah.
Ah. How long ago did your son leave for college? When was this poem written?
He just graduated last year.
Oh.
So yeah, this was about 4 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations. All right, we will talk more. We will talk more. This is very exciting. It's fun to meet people through their poems, like to just discover who they are through their poetry. This is very cool. Who's next, Marina?
Okay, Teresa Dzieglewicz.
Oh, you know what I forgot? And this is important to the audience people.
Yeah.
There is a little QR code. See the little QR code? That QR code takes you to the magiclandofbookshop.org, where you can buy the books of all of these beautiful authors. So just FYI, if you feel like checking out where that goes, that's where it goes. All right, go on. Finish it up, Marina.
Awesome. All right. So Teresa Dzieglewicz is an acclaimed poet, educator, and environmental advocate whose debut collection, Something Small of How to See a River, won the Dorset Prize. Her poems have received the Pushcart Prize, Best New Poet, the Ginkgo Prize, and more. Teresa is a fellow with Black Earth Institute, poet in residence at the Chicago Poetry Center, and a founding member of Defenders of the Water School. Her forthcoming children's book, Belonging, is co-written with Camilla Locke. Oh, I'm sorry if I did not say that correctly. I'm sorry. Teresa's work has also earned her fellowships from the Elizabeth George Foundation, Community of Writers at Tahoe, and Brooklyn Poets. She lives with her family in Chicago. Welcome, Teresa.
Yay, Teresa. We know Teresa well. We are very excited to have her here for the first time because we met her, Marina and I met her. So Marina has a long history with Pen Parentis. She was our board president. She has been, she found us from like watching the salons, and then she was like, I want to help, I want to do things. And now we are entwined. But Marina and I started, well, we were in the first Pen Parentis accountability group. So one of the things that Pen Parentis does is we offer accountability groups to writers who have kids, and they meet in small cohorts. And it used to be in person in Manhattan. And Teresa was one of our very first people that piloted this program, which is now online, and anybody can join. All you have to have is some kids somewhere and a work in progress that you wish to finish. Those are the requirements, and then you have to be an all access member of Pen Parentis, which is easy to do through our website. But Teresa, it's so exciting to hear your work. Let's go.
I'm so happy. I know it's so special to be here. I did just have a book come out, but I'm not going to actually read from it because it's a whole long story, so it's hard to do just like one short poem. But also, it's just, I'm so thrilled to be with such beautiful poets. Also, thank you. It's hard to follow you all. Okay, so I'm gonna read a little bit of an old poem because I never get to read it anymore, and I like it, but it's a little vulgar, so I apologize in advance.
Okay.
I'll read another more serious one after.
This is getting juicy.
Over the vulgar. Let's go.
I used to teach on a reservation in shared geography with South Dakota, and was also a ranching community. The only vegetarian at the branding. I like this. My knee on its neck, coarse calf hide filling the hole frayed through my jeans. With my elbow, I press the flat of his cheek onto hoof-stomped dirt and dead grass that tangles like hair. My thick braid hangs across his body, an echo of the rope that dragged him from the aluminum pen where his mother keens and men yell, "She won't eat 'em, but she sure can wrestle 'em." For them, I dig my knee deeper, grip tighter, and pull back his jerking leg, turn his belly skyward like screwing open a tobacco tin. The men holler for me. Cody, my classroom aide, who usually I see stuffed in a child's chair, teaching kids to count, pulls the buck knife from between his teeth, gently slices the thin skin of testicles, tosses them in a bucket filled with balls, pale moons rivered with blood. Some days, I want to be a man, a large one. Somebody nobody would ever interrupt or call pretty in dwindling gas station lights. Someone you would never follow in a revving car, hanging out like a loose tooth, yelling things I could do with my mouth. Ronnie's brother in a beige baseball cap pulls the iron from the branding barrel. For him, hot metal is money, a job, the weave of the land. But I, who catch spiders delicately between magazines and juice glasses, walk them to the prettiest bushes, I, who once bathed a chicken, massaged her hip for hours to free an egg, I, who teach my students power is for sharing, a rope to pull each other up. I'm the one proud, hollering now as he touches iron to skin. Only in the shower that night, as the scent of burnt flesh, charred fur unweave from my hair, spiral like smoke around my wrists, do I wonder what wire fences I've let grow in my chest. Do I wonder how can I love the world in the way I intend, be the woman I tell everyone that I am. For dinner, Ronnie's mom made everyone steak, PB&J on the side of the tray for me, white bread already absorbing the blood. In the cramped yellow kitchen, his brother throws testicles into hot oil. "Miss D," he yells, "you can't leave a branding without eating some balls." "They're free range," Ronnie offers. Because I want anything but weakness, I slide the hot chunk of flesh into my cheek. It resists the point of my teeth. It's rubbery, I say, hard as fuck to chew.
Wow.
That is not how I would expect a vegetarian to break their vegetarian. Of all the things, that is not the one that I would have.
I know, I never read it anymore because I've been reading from my book. So I was like, I'll read it tonight.
Nice. It was so fun.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Are we ready for our final reader?
Yes, and then we get to talk to everybody.
Yes. Okay. Diana Whitney is an award-winning poet, best-selling editor, and passionate literary advocate. She edited the acclaimed anthology You Don't Have to Be Everything, Poems for Girls Becoming Themselves, winner of the Claudia Lewis Award, and is the author of the poetry collections Wanting It, Dark Beds, and the forthcoming Girl Trouble. Diana's work appears in the New York Times, Kenyon Review, and more. Based in Vermont, she is also recognized for her community work supporting rural LGBTQ plus families. Welcome, Diana.
Yeah, Diana, she's coming back. She's been here before.
I have. You know, I read Pen Parentis when my first book, Wanting It, came out, and I actually read on January 13th.
Oh
my goodness.
Isn't that wild? I went back and looked at the photos. It was in this swanky downtown hotel, and it was one of the most fun readings ever.
I was
Nice.
really into the swanky. I was so angry that writers were relegated to downstairs sticky bars. I was like, how dare you? We spend years working on things. And why does a doctor who just went to med school get to go to like a fancy Ritz-Carlton and we have to be in the basement? So I was like, we're only going to be in nice places. That's it.
Well, it's a highlight of all the poetry readings I've done.
So glad.
Yeah,
Do you remember who you read with that night?
I read there were three
They were
others.
good. Yeah.
And I'm not going to be able to remember their names.
No.
But it was really interesting, and the conversation we had was super interesting.
It was great to have you. I remember that.
Well, I'm honored to be back, and
with so many more books. Like
yeah, you. Yeah, it used to be like, if only I can publish one book in my life, I'll be happy. But that
you're a success story for us, Diana.
Well, so I feel really excited to follow Teresa and a bucket filled with balls because
what do we have?
I'm going to read from Girl Trouble. It's coming out in April. And I'm going to start with the title poem. I'm going to read two poems. The first one's short. It's a sonnet. So here we go. Girl Trouble. When the trouble began, she was barely 11. When the trouble began, she was barely undressed. Smooth conch shell, no longer quite hairless, bubblegum, blow pop mouth, precocious as a book cover, furtive gaze from her parents' shelf. Watch her lay out her outfit for daily execution. Jelly flats and new body wave, crushes stringing her throat like a candy necklace. Overpowering sadness and elation, like two invisible potions, sniffed quick up the nostrils, essence of shame and strawberry shampoo, depilatory burn of white cream on her pits. She was troubled and troubling, locked in with a deadbolt, mixing cassettes of obsession and synth. No electronica swoon could soothe her syndrome. Call her toxic shock, razor blade, every trap door. So that comes at the beginning of the collection, and then I'm just going to fast forward to a poem right towards the end. So, and this is this. I hope maybe we'll get to talk about what it's like to parent teenagers. So this one is called Praise Poem for 8th Grade Graduation. Praise her blue sports bra in the sun, the icy water that receives her body, plunging off rock ledge into a lucid stream-fed pool. Praise the earbuds that got her through, rhythms of Drake and Lana Del Rey drowning out the world. Praise the blocking of bullies on Snapchat and Instagram, that protective firewall humming while she sleeps so no one will call her slut or whore. Praise the TikTok guy who makes elaborate gourmet meals for his dog, sliced raw beef, quail's egg, flaxseed, and salmon fin. How she loves watching him layer the bounty, the dog's gobbling delight at the end. Praise the 3-layer cake she bakes from scratch, waft of butter and sugar at 9 p.m., her cheeks flushed in flowery chaos. Get out of the kitchen. I will. Praise the first vanilla creamies on a hot night in May. Long sigh of relief that this part is over. Goodbye to the low brick compound where girls are dress coded. And Lyle Hamilton got a hand job in the cafeteria. It really happened during lunch. Someone filmed it and posted it to their story. The counselor said, "The best thing about middle school is that it ends." Praise the ending. Praise the green 10-speed, her wind-whipped freedom soaring downhill to meet a friend at the preschool playground where they once built snow forts, drove dump trucks through sand. Praise the days, the weeks of waiting, and the small swing she sits on now, high tops, scuffing wood chips, talking about astrology. Praise her tears when she rolls home in twilight, panting, alive, and heady with memory. I'm growing up, going to high school. and the half hug she permits me, her broad shoulders damp with sweat. Thank you.
All the snaps.
It feels all too close to home right now. When does the conversation start?
Yeah. I agree.
Oh.
Can we?
I actually haven't read that poem out loud before, and I found myself getting emotional. So this is actually really good prep for me in my book tour when I'm going to be doing tons of events. So I don't want to be crying.
Yeah. No, that's really, I mean, it's moving and I mean, poetry is always intense and so raw. So it's it's like it must be very hard. Let's pull everybody up, May, and see what we have to say to each other. What did I do? So hi everybody. So I would love to know from you guys, just real quick, how old your kids are. You don't have to be exact if you don't want to. You can just be like generally speaking, or you can be specific. It's up to you. They're your kids. But I want to know how many and how old they are ish, so that we have a grounding for like how we have this conversation, if you don't mind. And mine are 23. Jesus Christ, he's barely a kid, and 19, and she's also not a kid. So I have adults now.
All right. So I'll go next. So we have 32, Anthony, and we've got 2 girls, 14 and almost 12 going on 35. Covered. Diana?
I'll jump.
Oh yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah. So also not kids, but I used to say I have 2 teenagers, but now I don't because they're 18 and 20, both in college. But they feel still like kids sometimes.
Yeah.
I have a beautiful bouncy ball electron of a 7-year-old. Yeah.
Who I got to hold in my arms when he was a baby.
Yeah, I know. 7 years ago, Marina.
Yeah. Oh man.
I have 2, and they're just in that phase pretty soon after college graduation. So they're 24 and 26.
Nice. My oldest is 26 and turning 27 this year. And then I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and my baby is 11.
We have established parents. We have parents with multiple serial parenthood.
Right?
A lot of parenting going on.
We have a lot of
scars,
which is really good. No, it's really
we have
good.
made the DIY humans. Yes.
The people who are all in it, in the trenches, all the way up to the like, okay, I think I can breathe. Okay, I did it. Now what?
I don't know if we can ever breathe. Are you kidding me?
There's no breathing whatsoever. But yeah, and we're all of you, and I'm just going to again sort of run around the room. Were you all like deep in the writing when your kids were small? Like talk a little bit about like how that went, especially those of you who have kids that are grown and flown. Like how was your writing journey when they were little and big? Teresa, we'll start with you since yours is the shortest.
Yeah. So my book, I like wrote the first scrambled draft while pregnant, because your body is like it's like such an hourglass, right? I was like, this is the most visible deadline I've ever had. So and then spent like the next 4 years revising it. You
won a residency with that book.
Yeah, I've done some residencies with it. Yeah.
No, I just remember when you came, you were so mad because like they wouldn't let you do the residency.
I never did.
I remember that.
I never did get to do that residency.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was and still is. I don't feel like I have it I don't feel like I have it figured out, but such a journey of being like, okay, who am I as a writer, as a parent? Because for me anyway, it felt like everything changed, and my writing process needed to change and my ways of thinking changed, and so I think I've gotten away from the question. But but yeah, I mean, I think that being able to find community like Pen Parentis, right? Being able to find people who could make me feel like I was still a writer, and to be able to carve out whatever small, different kinds of times than I'd had before, you know, to say like, okay, this is an important part of myself that's part of parenting and part of who I am. And, you know, it's both connected and I need to make separate space for it.
Cool. Diana, and I know I already interviewed you and asked you this question a million years ago. So tell me about the journey.
Yeah. So I always say that I was in the baby cave, which is what someone said, that you're in the baby cave until your youngest is 4. And motherhood really rendered me mute at the beginning.
Oh, that's hard.
And so I wasn't writing for a while. And the way I found my way back to it, like Teresa, was through community. I joined a weekly, I didn't make it necessarily every week, but a generative group. It was a writing salon where, you know, and it was kind of the highlight of my life, you know, as well as my kids and the baby cave. So, and when I got back into writing after like some years of silence, I didn't write poetry, which had always been my genre. I wrote really short, like kind of short flash essays. You know, I was writing nonfiction about my life, and they became a parenting column. So that was great, because then I had a deadline. I think it was every 2 weeks, 900 words. And that was one of the best things for me to get back into it.
Was that back when journalism was paid?
Absolutely. Yeah. It started in my local paper, the Brattleboro Reformer, but then a couple other papers picked it up. I mean, it was fun. I had to edit a couple of editors, and, you know, I had like a small but loyal fan base that would like send me, it was called Spilt Milk. So it was like a parenting column, but it was like advice free. It was very irreverent. I was always like talking about how my kids only ate white foods, and, you know, kind of, I was not giving anyone advice. So that's how I got back into writing. And I still struggle with periods of silence. Like, that's just something I've come to accept about myself and the rhythms of my writing. And I started to, once they were a little bit older, going away on residency, even for a weekend. But I think I first got away for a week to the Vermont Studio Center, and that was amazing.
The Vermont Studio Center also has really good fellowships for parents.
Yeah.
By the way, you people out there who are looking for for money, like they give you money to like go do your work, which is really good.
That was like starting to feel the world expand again, and be in community with other writers and artists was just like this infusion of creative energy. And then I was able to, you know, write the poems that became my first book.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Teresa, how did you do with your kids?
Let's see. Well, I got married pretty late. So I was 38 or 39 when my husband and I got married. So we kind of didn't have a lot of time, you know, with the biological clock stuff. So I was starting graduate school, I think a month or 2 after we got married.
Oof, wow.
The short of it is, for the 3 years that I was in graduate school, I had my 2 kids.
Yeah.
While I was going to graduate school.
That's not easy.
So I had this, I mean, actually, I sort of thought it was a beautiful thing to be doing, actually, when I was pregnant, you know, trying to write about it, although I did lose focus during that time. But, you know, when I got my MFA in poetry, it seemed like everyone else was off getting poems published and getting their books published. And I was doing what you do with an infant and a toddler, which is, for me, decidedly not writing. Anyway, I always felt like I was hanging on by fingernails a few years. Then I think there's like a sea change that happens once they start school for a full day.
Yeah, you have an opportunity if you take it.
Right, because it, you know, before that, and we didn't have a full day of kindergarten we had like 3 hours. So you drop them off, you take a shower, get something to eat, and then you'd have to go pick them up again.
Yeah.
So I did have, though, the friends I had gotten during graduate school, I was still in contact with them. I didn't completely fall off the face of the earth of poetry, just almost. And I had a similar experience to Diana where, it was the days of blogging. And I started doing a gardening blog of all things for the New York Times. And I did these, 600-word nonfiction things. And I'm not a gardening expert. It was just sort of for fun. They published them. And, that went off for 2 years. And just, I think, the action of having a regular expectation where something is due.
Yeah.
And I had an editor. Before going to grad school, I was in publishing, a book editor. So it was the first time I was on the other side of that. Anyway, so it was after that I realized, I can do this again. I can do this again. And then joining a community of other writers, there's a group that I've been with for a very long time of 5 other poets who I work with. So that's it. But it took me 20 years to publish that first full-length manuscript. When I started in graduate school, 20 years.
How did you find in graduate school that people treated you when they found out you had kids? Like, did they treat you like you were some kind of like goddess? They can't believe you did it? Or was it like, what are you doing?
No, among people who had decided, for sure they weren't interested in kids and stuff like that, there was a little bit of, it's going to be hard for you or something like that. I didn't get the sense they wanted to jump in the pool with me. Let's put it that way. On the other hand, people were very generous. My teachers were fabulous.
That's good.
Yeah, they were terrific. I had a really terrific experience at Sarah Lawrence there.
Oh, Sarah Lawrence. Yeah, they're open to.
This is when Tom Lux was the director back then. So may he rest in peace.
Yeah. And Jessica, your poetry is more medical and more I feel like maybe you started later. Did you write about other things before all the medical and the mom and the stuff happened to incentivize you to write about that? Because your writing is beautiful. I feel like you've been writing a long time, maybe secretly.
I appreciate that. And I think that my story probably resonates with a lot of what everybody else has been saying. And I think it would probably resonate with the experiences that a lot of the writers, the parent writers, are having. I went back to school fewer than 4 months after the birth of my first baby. So I went back into my bachelor's degree and just started to work hard on that and try to balance both of those identities while everything in my life and everything in my body was going through unprecedented change. And it was one of those things where, and I was a fine arts student at the time, so I threw into that kind of a creative process, but found myself losing ground, or feeling like I was losing ground on that, feeling more and more disconnected from it, and trying to balance a baby that was very sensory and couldn't sleep, couldn't eat in the same, we had to just try to figure all of those pieces out while trying to keep a creative process going. And I managed doing that for a while, and then tried to make a practical choice into other things that would have been a better way to support myself in a profession. I think 2 things brought me back to writing, and one of them was the pandemic. I had 3 younger children at that time. I mean, my youngest was, he had to go out of school in kindergarten, went into the lockdown during that time. And the older ones there. And then my son, who had gone to college, moved back in with me, with his partner, because, their apartments
there weren't enough
dorms,
kids, extras.
Right, the dorms were closed down. They were trying to take everything online. They were trying to split the difference and keep engaged there. And all of the school went online, and in a rural area like this, and I think many of you will have experienced this, where we're in a childcare desert. There was nothing there were no social safety nets for these families, and there was nowhere for these kids. And so I was teaching. All of my college courses went online, and so it just washed the clock away.
I mean,
When
I
you're
just
doing
can't
all
imagine doing, you had 3 kids at home that were little, and you were teaching in your home as
right.
well.
And then my adult
And
child and
runaway.
his partner moved in,
Lord.
and my spouse was considered a necessary worker, and so
Oh.
he was traveling
Oh,
out.
so he got to leave.
And I was teaching online into students' homes, many of them essential workers. And so I would start at 5 a.m. when my nursing students would come in for their writing work, and I would end at about 11 o'clock at night when the students from the base would get done and jump on. I would watch, and this went on because it wasn't a clean shot back with the pandemic. So we were on again, off again in
right, as they
physical
closed the
school.
school for another 2 weeks, and then
Right,
they open
right.
again, and then they close it. Yeah. of
Right.
course.
It went on for another 2 years. And so for me, that crisis really transformed my illusion of coping. Let's just put it that way. I thought I had it. I thought I'd had it figured out. And I absolutely did not. I needed somewhere to put some of this, because, the house isn't that big, and there's only so many places you can politely say, well, please stop trying to kill each other, my darling DIY humans. Please stop trying to kill me. Eat the things, right? It's like, how many times can you say some of these things before you lose it? And so I started reaching for community, and I started reaching for an outlet, and I really started reaching for my mother, who had died quite a few years before. The death of my mother is the same age as my 16-year-old here at home. So there were so many things that I had not been able to ask her when she was alive. And I had thought I was grown when we were taking her through that. I had thought that I was old enough. I had no idea what life could do to us, and how to ask for some of that kind of help. And then the other thing that did it was this last year, I had my own diagnosis of leukemia, and I started to realize that the being able to put it off for another year, or another 6 months until things got quieter, or until somebody could handle something, those sorts of things, that illusion of time,
the deadline
changed. It changed. And I had applied for the Nevada Arts Council grant before my blood tests popped weird. It was like I was already feeling that there needed to be a change somewhere along the line. But I received that grant, and the approval for that grant about a month after I received my diagnosis. It felt like the universe was just throwing everything into a bucket. And
so interesting, making you process. Here, take this, process.
Right.
Make beauty out of it. Let's go.
Right. And so my mom's the journals and the writing that I had done, trying to reach back to my mom, I started to take those journals and bring them into the collection that I've been making. And off of the strength of that, that's how I've gotten my sabbatical. So that's given me a chance to reach back out to the profession, reach back out to people that are teaching in it, and really, really connect in. And I think that's so on the one end, I mean, I am very, very emerging. It feels like when I was listening to Teresa say that you were coming back into grad school with tiny, tiny humans, right? I feel like I'm coming into the world of writing at an age where lots of things have been happening, but I haven't really pushed my brain into the puzzle of publishing. I haven't really pushed my brain into the putting myself out there of some of these things, and this year has been that. So
Should be really interesting. Teresa Dzieglewicz. I'm gonna like I don't even know how to call
No,
it.
you
How to
don't.
pronounce
It's
it.
Dzieglewicz.
Oh, Dzieglewicz. Yes. I wanted to ask you about, because your book is really about environmentalism and very tied in with a community that you taught at. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that? Just like how, because it's like almost the polar opposite of like the super personal individual poem that's about like something that you're going through, that you're like individually dealing with. Talk about how that developed for you.
Yeah. So my book is about the water protector movement at Standing Rock in 2016. And my friend Elena Eagleshield had started a school for the kids who were living at the camp. And I went up to go kind of drop off some stuff at the camp and ended up staying and helping her run the school and living there for 5 months. And so, yeah, it was a really like beautiful and complicated project, I think, to work on it. And so interesting to be working on something so I got pregnant. I came home in 2017 and had my kid in 2018, and so, interesting to be working on something so non-motherhood related. Well, like as many of you said, in this very physical moment of, I have all these pictures of myself like nursing and
And writing on the side.
like Marina and Milda can attest to, me like bringing the baby and passing him around the table at the accountability.
Yes,
all the time. We all held the baby.
But I think that in a way working on it too was a connection to that activist part of myself, even at times that I sometimes was like, I'm just a jar of milk right now. Like that is all I am in human form. But it was a really amazing project to get to work on. And a lot of the poems are really collaborative, like include a lot of dialogue, or are things that I talked with people about to remember, and like talked with the students at the school. One of my former students, who is now like an adult, because people grow up, as it turns out, she's been coming on parts of the book tour with me and reading some of her work, which has been really beautiful. So yeah, it's been a really wonderful way to both help myself stay connected to certain parts of myself through the writing of them, and also like a way to think about how community functions on the page and how our accountability to our communities. And obviously I am white, so an extra level of accountability in thinking about how to, how to really honor people in the story with the work that I'm doing.
Sure. And Diana, you're quite an activist as well in your community. How does that work with your creative process? Do you make it? Do they mesh? Do they bump up against each other, or do they? Talk about that a little bit.
I mean, they're at the moment. For a while, I was really focused much more on the personal. I mostly write from personal experience, like, the parenting column, and then, a lot about desire and relationships and marriage and parenting. I really became I was an activist in college. I really became much more activated in after 2016. So I was co-founder of the Women's Action Team with a cool group of women. And I think that what I used was like my platform as a writer to write about misogyny. Like, actually remember, it's funny. I was thinking, oh, these two things are separate. But now when I go back to some of those personal essays, like my younger daughter was super into soccer, and she had to play on a boys' league because there were no girls' travel leagues in Vermont. And she got called a little bitch on the field. And people just were like, oh no, that's not a big deal, it's trash talk. And it was like, oh no. Anyways, I managed to write about the whole process of like getting some accountability for a misogynistic comment that is not, it's not something that should get shrugged off. So I would be able to weave in my passion for, social justice with things that were literally unfolding. Now, the difference came when my kids really became like in middle school, respecting their privacy became, and still, I was not going to write sort of memoir-ish first person nonfiction about what they needed to consent to their own stories. They needed to be the ones to tell them. And that's where poetry is great that way, because there's so many speakers. The I is not necessarily a narrator, that is yourself. And you can inhabit different voices and timelines. And it's not even clear, if I'm writing about a kid, who it is, if it's a fictional, imagined one. So I think at this point, my activism, I work as a community organizer. It is separate from the poetry that I'm writing.
That's awesome. And Teresa, your kids are old, so they probably have read most of your work. Have they commented? Like, have you had moments? Talk to us about what it feels like to have these adults have opinions about your life.
Well, that's interesting. I think that they have read.
I was going to say, my son never read my book when it was out.
I mean, I think they have, but certainly it's not like a point of discussion, like, oh, Mom, I really like that poem, or I like that poem, or I do feel sometimes self-conscious. I remember the publisher of Design, which is a full-length book, was published by Terrapin Books. And I remember having this panicked moment where I actually counted the number of poems in the book that mentioned my daughter Marie versus the ones that Evan, my son.
Oh no!
And there were a lot more on the Marie side, and I said, stop the press. It was the
stop the press. Stop the press.
I got to get another Evan poem in there. I don't even know if he read the damn thing. So, but she was so wonderful about it. She said, "Sure, I get it," and we picked out a poem, and she did add it. But no, it is. But I really, I can really relate to what Diana was saying about, the privacy issue. It's one thing to write about your kids when they're small, and even the difficult things seem kind of cute, or stuff that they're not responsible in any way. And, bigger kids, as they always say, bigger problems. You know what I mean? And not like, oh, my kids are such a problem. It's not that. It's just they're more complex. Yeah. But that's also, in a way, can make them more interesting to write about. But you have to, as others have said, really do it slant, really do it side, crabwise, to try to get at some of the issues that you're dealing with and they're dealing with. I mean, like the gun stuff, a lot of my current poems have to do with violence because I'm worried for my kids, I mean, I'm worried for all of us too, but I'm also worried about the future. So that we're leaving to our kids. So yeah, a lot of my recent work has had elements of violence and war. So that's how it shows up.
Yeah, I mean, my girl troubles about sexual violence and surviving rape culture and raising strong daughters. And it's kind of layering of my own girlhood with my daughters, and it's hard stuff. So I relate to, telling it slant, I'm hoping I'm doing it, but yeah, the one early copy that I had was on the kitchen table. And when my younger daughter was home from break, she was like, "Hey, Mom, there are a lot of poems in here about me. I should get a cut of the profits." And I had to be like, "Hey, honey, like
There aren't any.
yeah,
You can have all the profit.
free, like maybe you can come on a trip with me if I go somewhere fun for a reading." So.
Well, Diana, while you were reading, I was thinking about my 14-year-old and how the other day I said, I'm really getting worried because she's really looking like a young woman now. Like she's really starting to get all of her curves and like, I don't know. I look at her and I'm like, I can't. I'm so afraid of like everything around her.
Hermione is a very strong woman, and she will be just fine.
No. But she's
a very
oblivious.
good role model.
No, but there's something about the way there's like an oblivion in the child's
Well,
mind.
that's what, right? Isn't that the whole Lolita thing? The oblivion or the "You Don't Know You're Beautiful" song, right? It's like that is the captivation of that time period, is that they don't know yet. And then when they find out, they look out. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. Do you guys have any questions for each other? Did anything come up while you were talking?
I wanted to ask Jessica, when you started reading, can you tell me again where you were reading from? I wanted to remember the excerpt that you selected.
So the longer Raccoon Mother.
Right, that's what.
Right. It was about there came a point in Mom's cancer where she was still mentally very, very sharp, but her body was starting to fail for her, and so she was starting to prepare for her own death and try to plan. When you do a lot of the mental labor to keep your house going, and when you have run your ranch. She'd run the ranch since my father had passed years prior. And so she was just trying to plan. I'm trying to avoid the word obsessively, but she was just constantly trying to plan for every contingency that she could foresee because she knew she was going to go. And in the midst of that, she was also just physically starting to fall. Starting to lose that capacity. And we were grateful that we were able to be there, my sisters and I. But it becomes, you start to see some of these shocking pieces where, when she'd had that fall and had bloomed a bruise up under, that soft part of your eye and across the cheekbone. And you come out in the morning and you're just like, what'd you do? And she's like, I don't see anything. Do you see anything? I don't see anything. Let's make breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And that was just the kind of human she was. It's probably the kind of human that my sisters and I are. We come from the same training, same meat, same sense of humor. But
right.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And Teresa, your children's book is coming out when exactly?
Yeah, it's coming out in 2027, early 2027 sometime.
Right. Good. That's so exciting.
Amazing. It looks like we are at the end of our hour, which seems insane because I feel like we just got on this like meetup Zoom thing. I want to take a second to thank Camilla, Kathleen, Sarah Kane Gutowski, Annette, Janet, and Anne for donating on their way in. So thank you guys so much. And of course, thank you to poets and writers of the Grote Foundation, the Poetry Foundation, and public funding from the New York State Council on the Arts, and naturally the Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing, where you guys are all going to go out and get that fellowship, which is fully funded, and it is due on January 19th. So go do that and come back to the next salon, which is in February, and it is Fluid Boundaries is the theme. And the authors that we have are Mary Kathleen Mahuran and Therese Svoboda and Lane Iguden, and Ching-In Chen is coming back. If you know them, they are a great poet. So come back and see us then. And in the meantime, thank you to Teresa, Jessica, and Diana. And of course, to my new co-host, Marina Aris. Everybody give her a wild breath of I'm so happy. I'm so happy. She's so great. It's super fun. Everybody come back next time. Bye.